What is going on, YouTube? What is going on, The Catch fam? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? You already know what time it is, man. We are hopping right into another mock draft. We have got PPR scored format. We have got a 10-man league, and we are selecting with the 10th overall selection. And I am going to go into this with a very obscure strategy, and I just want to see what happens, right? I'm going to go out here. This is not something I would do in my personal fantasy league. These are just different strategies, different, just trying to put ourselves in different positions and really try and see what would happen if this happened in your upcoming fantasy football draft, right? But I'm going to select Patrick Mahomes in the first round and see what happens for the rest of the draft. I just think it'll be interesting, and I think it's certainly realistic to some degree. There are leagues out there, especially deeper leagues. Maybe it would have been better to try this with a 14 plus man league, but nonetheless, we're going to do it right here. We're just going to see what happens. Hopefully people don't get mad at me and leave, because it looks like we've got a full draft room, but we are going to go out and we're going to select Patty Mahomes. Let's get this thing going, baby. If you do enjoy this video, do find it helpful or entertaining anyway, please go ahead and smash that like button and consider subscribing for more future content like this, as well as our annual The Catch podcast, and drop a comment down below with what kind of obscure strategies you guys want to see, what kind of regular strategies you guys want to see, and what style of mock drafts you guys want to see in the future, as well as any other future content you guys like to see. As in the first round here, we have your big five off the board: CMC, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, and Ezekiel Elliott. Probably the best five fantasy players, in my opinion, that you can possibly select in that first round, especially the top five running backs, as we see Nick Chubb falling out of that 6 overall selection to Aaron Jones being taken 6 overall, and we will see what happens. Be crazy if someone took Patrick Mahomes with these next 3 picks, and then this video would be all for nothing, right? But we will see a lot of good players on the board: Nick Chubb, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Saquon, Stephon Diggs, Travis Kelce. A lot of good players still left here in the first round. So we are just anticipating. We got 1 second left, and Nick Chubb is off the board. And now we will see what happens with the 8th and 9th overall selection. And yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun, guys. I really do. So our number 1 target for this 10th overall selection is none other than Patty Mahomes. Now, you could argue that I could try and see if he falls to us with pick 30 overall, but there are a lot of people out there who want Patrick Mahomes as their fantasy quarterback, who might be in a similar position like this, and simply just do not want to risk the possibility of him not being there, in the 3rd or 4th round when they select. So we're going to do it. Like I said, it is just a mock draft strategy. We're going to keep on rolling, and then look at this. Tyreek Hill is available, so let's just add him to the squad, right? We are stacking those 2 Chiefs players, and then it's actually pretty possible, pretty feasible to believe that Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be available when we select 30th overall. So other than selecting Patty Mahomes in the first round, I have no strategy whatsoever for the rest of this draft. We are just going to simply take it as is, evaluate who was drafted, as we see Devontae Adams now off the board, and we are just going to draft with our instincts, with the research that we have done, and we are going to take the best available players at each position. So definitely with this 30th overall selection coming in the 3rd round, we need to target the running back position. Super strong at the receiver position, starting with that of Tyreek Hill, and feeling very, very confident with having locked up Patrick Mahomes early on as well. So now we see Clyde Edwards-Helaire taken 16th overall. So we will not get that kind of trio of Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Tyreek Hill, and a Patty Mahomes. In a 10-man league, going to be very difficult to, even secure 2 of the Chiefs players, right? In an 8-man league, definitely more feasible. So we see Antonio Gibson and Najee Harris a big run on running backs, and Justin Jefferson. We've got 1 more selection here in the 2nd round, with now Calvin Ridley off the board in the 3rd round beginning. So my top target is, obviously, you guys already know, is going to be David Montgomery, and then after that, we will probably just take whoever we like the most, whether it be Joe Mixon, Chris Carson, J.K. Dobbins, Darrell Henderson, or my guy hanging down there, Josh Jacobs. We definitely need 2 running backs on this roster. Here in the 3rd round, we have seen Darren Waller, followed by that of DK Metcalf off the board. So we will just double check, see if there's anyone still available. I do not believe that Stephon Diggs will fall to us here at pick 30, but obviously, if he was still hanging around, I'm not going to pass up that talent as we see George Kittle off the board. And now Stephon Diggs at 24th overall, a absolute steal for my guy Boggy. Let's see who he's got on this team. Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson, and Stephon Diggs. Are you freaking kidding me, man? What a beautiful start for our guy Boggy out there. But our roster looking very Kansas City heavy, which is okay as we see Joe Mixon off the board as well. And now we will anticipate drafting David Montgomery still. We will go out and we will sure up David Montgomery did fall to us as we see Cooper Kupp and J.K. Dobbins off the board. And now we have that of my guy David Montgomery on the board. And as much as I just talked about not picking Chris Carson, part of me really wants to because I don't think Josh Jacobs is going to fall to us. But let's take a swing on Darrell Henderson as our RB2, someone who has the opportunity to be that RB1 in that LA Rams offense, and certainly definitely a capable player. That injury to Cam Akers really has shaken up this fantasy outlook for the Rams overall. The pace that we saw Cam Akers on from where he was starting, as we see, I took a swing thinking that Josh Jacobs might fall to us for some reason, and obviously he does not. But we do have Darrell Henderson as our RB2, so we will keep on moving on. But it's also good to know, Josh Jacobs, is ranked 45th overall through Yahoo's rankings, and I just do not think at this point in time he's ever going to fall at that point, right? I think that most people on their personal draft boards have him far, far higher, much closer to at least somewhere between 18 and 25, to be perfectly honest. So it's a good note to see that. If we could have gotten both David Montgomery and Darrell Henderson and then had Josh Jacobs fall to us, that would have been excellent, kind of a best case scenario, right? But it did not happen. So here in the fourth round, we've also seen Josh Allen, Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, Chris Carson, Kyler Murray, and Mike Davis, as well as Dak Prescott, all off the board with one more selection left here in the fourth round. So I would still say that the running back position is our top target as we see CeeDee Lamb to finish that fourth round off the board. But it would not be a bad idea to probably go ahead and get another receiver as well, as now we see Lamar Jackson and DeAndre Swift here at the top of the fifth round. Taken off the board, that is. And now here in the fifth round, we see Trey Sermon off the board. So a lot of good receivers sitting here, as well as a lot of running backs that we're not absolutely in love with, but certainly present some value. I can tell you if Miles Sanders falls to us, he will definitely be our selection here, as we see Chris Godwin off the board, someone who I was also heavily targeting here. So at this point in time, Miles Sanders as well as Julio Jones, who just got selected, would have been our next top target. But even a Mike Evans, Robert Woods, at this point, I might consider an Amari Cooper, DJ Moore, and Tyler Lockett, as now we see Miles Sanders selected. So there is a lot of good talent, but it is not going to last very long whatsoever. So part of me wants to take Myles Gaskin or even a Travis Etienne here at this point, right? But I do feel like Damian Harris is probably just the safest running back left on the board. But part of me definitely wants to take a Myles Gaskin. Let me know in the comments down below how you guys feel about Myles Gaskin. I think these projections are kind of harsh, to be honest. I can see him closer to 1,000 yards from a rushing standpoint. I think the receiving standpoint that they haven't projected out are fine, but let me know if you're personally targeting Myles Gaskin at all, as we have now seen TJ Hawkinson off the board at the tight end position. Might be another position we want to kind of, start targeting and try and get an elite guy, because we do know that our receivers and running backs aren't going to be our strong point outside of Tyreek Hill and David Montgomery, right? So we will see. We have one more selection as we now see Mike Evans and Robert Woods off the board. So I'm going to go out and get Tyler Lockett purely based off of what we know he can do in the red zone. But don't get me wrong, he's a great receiver from a standpoint, but he really did get a bulk of these stats, a bulk of his points last year throughout a couple games. So a little bit of concern around Tyler Lockett, but certainly a great number two receiver to that of a Tyreek Hill. So I'm going to go out and take a swing on Myles Gaskin here, add some more depth at the running back position, and kind of try and help fill that out. Although we do feel very confident in David Montgomery, and we are happy with the selection of Darrell Henderson. We would have loved to get Josh Jacobs on this squad as well. But there is plenty of time left in this draft for us to fill out this roster. Did not take a tight end there. I think it's definitely possible that a guy like Tyler Higbee falls to us, or a Robert Tonyan, as well as Mike Gesicki in the later rounds. So I did not go out. I mean, if I was going to take either of these guys, excuse me, it would have been that of Mark Andrews. Let me know. I mean, how are you guys evaluating Kyle Pitts? Right, I have a weird vendetta against drafting rookies. Something that I feel like I definitely need to get over, as it always it turns out to hurt me, right? Especially at the running back position. So let me know in the comments down below how you guys are personally evaluating Kyle Pitts. I just think there are so many tight ends that we know are going to be productive in their respective offenses that I am a little hesitant to draft Kyle Pitts, especially where drafted at. But don't get me wrong, I think he's absolutely talented. Had a phenomenal college career, and we also know that Matt Ryan loves to target the tight end position as well. So definitely a lot of positives there, and I certainly understand why he's being drafted, as we now see Travis Etienne off the board and 15 more selections until we pick. Certainly a lot of time for a lot of talent to be taken off the board. Okay, so we've got Justin Herbert taken with the 55th overall selection. This sixth round moving a little slow, but lots of good players here. It's just no point in really making a queue because there is so much talent left. And by the time we pick here in 12 more selections, as Ronald Jones II is taken off the board, as well as DJ Moore, most of this talent will not be present anymore. Ronald Jones II, in a lot of drafts, I'm seeing him creep up and up. I mean, you guys know that he has been a primary target for myself in mock drafts, but he is somebody who people want on their roster. They firmly believe he will be the RB1 in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. So keep a lookout if that's a guy that you're targeting. I mean, someone who I've heavily been targeting, but just keep a lookout because other people are starting to have that same opinion and don't agree with where he is ranked. And most of that is more than likely purely based off of a lot of people have a lot of faith in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, and they want a piece of it, whether it's Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones or Antonio Brown, one of those tight ends or two of those elite receivers or Tom Brady himself. People want Tampa Bay Buccaneers players on their roster this coming fantasy football season. So something to keep an eye on, certainly. So here at the end of the sixth round, we saw Mark Andrews off the board, followed by Adam Thielen. And now to start the seventh round, we see Jamar Chase as well as Kareem Hunt off the board. So at this point, Damian Harris would be my top target. I think he does present the best value. And then at this point, I do like the value of James Robinson. And with Ronald Jones being no longer available, those will probably be my next top targets. And then we kind of move into that next tier of running backs, right, with Michael Carter, maybe a Kenyon Drake, since Josh Jacobs is not on this team, as well as like a Gus Edwards or a Raheem Mostert as well. So we will see what happens here, right? So we got Brandon Ayuk off the board as well here in the seventh round, and probably at some point soon, I should probably consider the tight end as well as another receiver. So, but I think in these later rounds, we'll be able to go out and select a receiver. So let's scoot me over to the left, and let's see here. So yeah, we still have an entire bench to fill, right? And we need some more running backs to fill out at depth, but then we certainly need to go out and scoop up some of those late round receivers, as well as some talent at the tight end position as well. So plenty left to do here in this draft, and let's see what's going on. We got Deebo Samuel off the board, as well as Brandon Ayuk, as I just mentioned. So both of those San Francisco 49er receivers off the board, followed by that of Russell Wilson. So my personal stock in these San Francisco 49ers players is definitely starting to rise, and I think Raheem Mostert is a very interesting selection. Someone who, when healthy and not having to compete with touches, someone we've seen perform very, very well, has an extreme amount of speed, a very talented player, and I think he's someone that Kyle Shanahan likes to utilize. So as long as he can stay healthy, I certainly see the reason to go out and select him, and we will go ahead and make him one of our targets for this coming draft. But As we sit here, creeping up on the 70th overall selection, Damian Harris is still available. I just saw the name Jalen Hurts, and I kind of meshed their name. Damian Hurts, not to be mistaken for Damian Harris, the guy who we're going to go out and draft. I think a great value here with the 70th overall selection. So we do just want to take a look at who's available. And as much as I want to go out and pick that of a James Robinson, excuse me. I really like the value of Chase Claypool here. So let's go snag up Chase Claypool, get another receiver a little bit early on, as we do have 4 running backs on this team now. And I do believe there will be some good receivers at later parts of this draft as Raheem Mostert gets selected. I considered taking Raheem Mostert there where I picked up Chase Claypool. And if I had not taken that of Chase Claypool or Raheem Mostert, the next selection I would have made would have been that of James Robinson. So we have a lot of players here, showing on the board that we really, really freaking like. So, I mean, Robbie Anderson at this point, a great value overall. We'll add Kenny Galladay, Tyler Higbee, James Robinson, David Johnson, Leonard Fournette, Robert Tonyan. We might as well add Aaron Rodgers to this queue as well. But let's go ahead and let's keep going down here. So we'll add Juju, Michael Carter, Jerry Jeudy. I mean, a lot of good players still left. Absolutely no reason to panic, although we did see a couple guys that we liked selected, and now we see Tyler Higbee off the board. So with this coming selection, definitely want to go out and get a tight end. I'm sure 1 or 2 more will be selected by the time we pick, and there goes Robert Tonyan, as we have 13 more selections until we pick, and now James Robinson off the board as well. So maybe I did make a mistake by going out and getting Chase Claypool, as we've seen some very valuable running backs, at least in our own opinion, as well as some very valuable tight ends off the board as well. But we only had 2 receivers, and as much depth as there is at receiver, it doesn't hurt to go out and get a guy that you like. So Logan Thomas and Dallas Goedert are still available, as well as Mike Gesicki, and I definitely want one of those 3 guys on this roster, but I also definitely want to go out and get another running back. Since we went out and got Chase Claypool, we do need to add one of these other guys, and probably Michael Carter would be that top target for us, probably the best opportunity to be the number 1 running back in his respective offense. But I do kind of like the value of Leonard Fournette, as well as David Johnson, who also is a very good shot to be the number 1 running back in that Houston Texans offense. But David Johnson realistically did not have the worst year ever in that offense. He is more of a guy who will get you somewhere like 8 to 14 points, on a regular basis, which isn't very good, but as a desperate flex option, could be of some value at this point in the draft. But there is a lot of competition in that Houston Texans running back room. I mean, Steve and I talked about this in our The Catch podcast when we went over the AFC South. There is a ton of running backs in that running back room, and Philip Lindsay being one of them, of someone who I think could come up and really compete for that number 1 spot. I think that they could certainly both be utilized, but Mark Ingram's there, Rex Burkhead's there. It's just a kind of a mess, right? We don't know. Come week 1, some of those guys may not be on the team anymore, but nonetheless, I'm just a little hesitant. But I do think at this point in this draft, he presents some good value. So in the 8th round, we have kind of seen things top off here with Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham, as well as Javonte Williams. And here in the 9th round, we've seen Zach Moss, Michael Thomas, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, Ryan Tannehill, San Francisco 49ers, and Baltimore Ravens defense, as well as Justin Tucker and Harrison Butker, the first kickers selected overall. So a lot of good value still left here. I mean, kind of regretting that reach for Chase Claypool with Robbie Anderson still available here. I think that they present very similar value. I think Chase Claypool a little bit higher value, knowing that we have more trust in Ben Roethlisberger probably than that of Sam Darnold. But nonetheless, no regrets, right? So, but I do think that Robbie Anderson, a great value here. I like where they've got him projected, just over 1,200 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy off the board, which definitely someone I wanted to take a swing at here, but not. It kind of feels like a weight lifted off our shoulders, because we do not need another receiver at this point. We need to go out and we need to pick up a running back or 2 here. So we are going to go out and part of me wants to just take, yeah, let's take David Johnson, even though we just went on a huge rant about the Houston Texans, and then let's take Leonard Fournette, and then that just kind of gives us some depth. Definitely some question marks here with these two, but we just want to fill out. I mean, we have 6 running backs now, and we at least have a lot of depth, a lot of players who could potentially definitely be number one running backs in their respective offenses. You guys know that we lean RB heavy here at the catch. I don't want to speak for Steven, but I know how he drafts, and that's how he drafts as well, right? We have 2 and actually 3 receivers that we're very confident in. One of them being one of the best receivers in the entire league, as Nyheim Hines is off the board, and Patrick Mahomes being the best quarterback. So we did wait at the tight end position. We do want to see if a guy like Logan Thomas or Dallas Goedert slips to us, but I don't necessarily think it'll happen. But at that point, we can go out and get that of Mike Gesicki, who I think presents very similar value to those two. But Nyheim Hines going. Let's see, at the 92nd overall selection, Nyheim Hines, someone else starting to creep up on draft boards. You guys have heard me talk about this. I think he presents a great PPR value. I think in 12 plus team leagues, he is definitely someone who should be on your draft board, right? He should be someone who you are keeping an eye on in 14 plus man leagues, especially. He is a great value in rounds 10 plus. So definitely keep an eye on Nyheim Hines. I think as week 1 draws closer, he will be creeping up and up on draft boards as well. So we see Kenny Golladay taken here as well as a couple more kickers, and Cortland Sutton also off the board. So 10 more selections until we pick again. A little bit of a run on kickers, probably a little bit unrealistic as we see Michael Carter taken in the 10th round. A very good value there. But certainly need to start targeting the tight end position as we see Tony Pollard as well as the Tampa Bay defense off the board. And at this point, we just want to solidify the tight end position as well as maybe going out and getting a guy like Antonio Brown or a kind of handcuff situation with that of Kenyon Drake. So let's go and scoop me over and let's see. So 2 more bench players to pick as well as a tight end, and then we'll finish this off as a true filled roster with a kicker and a defense. Remember, this has been kind of a wild ride. What happens if you take Patrick Mahomes in the first round? At this point, we have a lot of auto drafters, so I mean, I think things are staying relatively realistic, but hopefully I didn't push them out the door with that early selection of Patrick Mahomes and them not liking this draft overall. But as we now see Logan Thomas off the board, I certainly think it's a viable option that we will get Dallas Goedert here, and then hopefully go out and get Mike Gesicki in one of the later rounds as well, with kind of our final selection at the bench bench spot. I guess bench is not a position, right? Maybe for some of us, right? But as we now see Juju Smith-Schuster as well as Tyler Boyd off the board, and we've also seen Logan Thomas, James Conner, Melvin Gordon, the third, all selected here in the 11th round. Now we have A.J. Dillon and one more selection until we get our kind of snake eyes selection here and take 2 more players off the board and start to fill out this roster a little bit more. So now we see Noah Fant off the board. I think that's a good selection, but we want to go out and get our guy in Dallas Goedert. And I like DJ Chark a lot here. I like AB here, and I like Will Fuller. I don't mind the handcuff situation with Kenyon Drake, but I don't believe I can actually select another running back. So we're going to go out. We're going to pick up AB for this draft, but I like the value of DJ Chark, very similar to AB, as well as the value of Will Fuller, and Mike Williams, very similar to that of AB as well. Maybe a little bit less, competition for targets in some of these offenses, but nonetheless, we're happy with the selection as we now see Corey Davis off the board as well. That selection of Corey Davis, followed by a selection of Brandon Cooks and Gus Edwards. So still a lot of good value at a lot of positions left. Our top target is definitely going to be Mike Gesicki with our final selection, and then we will just pick whatever defense we want at that point, and then just let a kicker fall to us. So we will kind of keep evaluating things here until we at least make that selection potentially for that of Mike Gesicki, who just went off the board. So never mind, we are not taking Mike Gesicki. I really wanted to pair Dallas Goedert with Mike Gesicki, but it is okay. Maybe Mike Williams falls to us here. Probably not. But if he does, that would definitely be our top target. But I won't mind going out and getting, kind of a tight end. I'm starting to like Anthony Firkser. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to say his name correctly, but nonetheless, I do think he has an opportunity. I mean, we saw Johnny Smith perform in that Tennessee Titans offense. We've seen Delaney Walker in recent years perform in that Tennessee Titans offense. So I think he has an opportunity to be someone that Ryan Tannehill likes to target. So I think he's kind of a good sleeper, and I kind of have a good sleeper feeling about Cole Kmet as well, although he will have some competition for targets with that of Jimmy Graham. So here we have now also seen in the 13th round, we've seen Mike Williams and Jarvis Landry and Joe Burrow. So obviously Mike Williams, someone we were heavily targeting as well, is now off the board, not available for selection. So we do have kind of a decision to make about who we want to target here. I think a lot of these good players who still present value will not be available. So would it be interesting to go out and get a Trevor Lawrence here and just kind of roll with that of Dallas Goedert as our tight end and kind of pair the young gun with, I mean, it feels like Patrick Mahomes has been in the league forever now, but still pretty young, early in his career, which is crazy to think about how many more years he has left to really solidify himself as the best in the league. So why not just go out and take our guy Trevor Lawrence, someone who my personal stock is starting to rise pretty rapidly. And never mind, there goes Trevor Lawrence. I think it would have been a great selection, but he is now off the board. So at this point, we're just taking the top talent, right? Which is probably going to be that of Michael Gallup. I mean, Curtis Samuel is available here, pretty good value. We've got Chenault Jr., someone that Trevor Lawrence will be throwing to, presumably. So, but we can also just go and quickly check the tight ends. We have some options there as well. I mean, but at the end of the day, let's just take our guy, Michael Gallup, and call it a day. Probably a good thing to add some depth to the receiver position here. And then we'll go out, and there are a couple defenses here that I like, but I'm going to go out and I'm just going to pick the Colts. And we will call this a day and just know that a kicker is going to fall to us. So let's go ahead and break down this roster in which we selected Patty Mahomes in the very first round of this mock draft. Okay, so let's crack it down, baby. So we know that we went out and we got Patrick Mahomes, obviously, at the quarterback position. I thought this was a fun idea. I thought it was a fun draft strategy. And I certainly just want to reiterate that this is a realistic thing. I mean, maybe not for your personal league, but there are a lot of leagues out there, you guys know who you are, where you might see Patrick Mahomes selected in the first round overall. And I have seen it. You guys go through and watch some of these mock drafts. This has happened in other mock drafts that we've done by other people drafting in those mock drafts. So it's certainly not crazy, and I just wanted to see what kind of this roster would look like. We didn't go out and get a second quarterback. We almost got the selection of Trevor Lawrence, but we were able to pair that of Patrick Mahomes with Tyreek Hill, so an excellent value. Anytime Patrick Mahomes throws a touchdown to Tyreek Hill, which he did 15 times last year, we are gaining all of those points, which is an awesome, awesome value. Outside of Tyreek Hill at the receiver position, we have Tyler Lockett. You guys know that I'm pretty confident in Tyler Lockett overall, and I think he's a great number 2 receiver to have on your roster, especially if you have an elite player like Tyreek Hill. Outside of those two guys, we have Chase Claypool, AB, and Michael Gallup, so pretty confident overall with this receiver room that we've put together here. I think it's actually turned out pretty strong with some of the guys that we got in later rounds. Maybe a little bit of a reach like we went over with that of Chase Claypool. A lot of good talent off the board after he was selected, but it's okay, right? At the running back position, probably the weakest part of this roster, considering that in those earliest rounds we went out, we got a quarterback and a receiver. So just take a note if you are, considering taking Patrick Mahomes in the very first round, your running back, spots are going to be relatively thin, right? So at the running back position, we do have David Montgomery, who I'm very, very confident in overall, followed by Darrell Henderson. Don't forget that we could have selected Josh Jacobs there. So, but give or take, I think Darrell Henderson is still going to have a good year. We did get some pretty good depth at the running back position. We do have Myles Gaskin on this roster, as well as Damian Harris, David Johnson, and Leonard Fournette. So not the strongest running backs on our bench, but we could definitely, out of those 4 guys, we will more than likely have someone step up and be an RB1, if not 2 of those guys step up and be an RB1 and a productive RB1 at that. So pretty good depth overall at the running back position. At the tight end position, I kept going back and forth on when to pick a tight end, but I still think we ended up with a very good tight end, Dallas Goedert, someone who people are starting to have a little bit of panic around. We saw Zach Ertz play quite a bit and get quite a few snaps in that preseason game this past week, and we'll come back to that in just a second as I'm going to go out and I'm going to add my guy Rodrigo Blankenship, who feels like I'm taking Rodrigo Blankenship in almost every draft, but in my opinion, for very good reason. I think he's going to have an excellent year, and he did have an excellent year last year as well. But part of that, ordeal with between Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert may be that the Eagles are looking to ship Zach Ertz out the door, and maybe they're just trying to show that he still has a lot of value as a veteran tight end. But certainly something to monitor, because if he's going to eat in to what Dallas Goedert, I'm sorry, I'm moving my face all over the place here, but he's projected at over 900 receiving yards and around 6 touchdowns, and I think he's certainly capable of that. But if Zach Ertz makes a presence, we all know what Zach Ertz can do. So it's definitely, absolutely something to monitor. And just as another note, we did go out and we got the Indianapolis Colts defense as well as that of Rodrigo Blankenship at the kicker position. So with that being said, I thank you all very much for watching and or listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know it was a little bit, might be considered a little unorthodox to take a quarterback in the first round, but I'm telling you guys, the more and more mock drafts that you start to do, you will see this happen from time to time. So I just wanted to have fun with it and see what would happen. Obviously, we didn't end up with the best running back room, but I still think that this roster turned out pretty good overall, considering the circumstances. So I just kindly ask that you guys smash that like button if you guys did enjoy this video, find it helpful or entertaining in any way whatsoever. Leave a comment down below with what other types of strategies you guys would like to see in these videos, as well as what specific types of mock drafts you guys would like to see in these videos in the future, and leave a comment with what you guys thought on this draft overall. And while you're at it, I would ask that you guys please consider subscribing to the channel for more future content like this, as well as our annual The Catch podcast. And once again, I thank you all very much for watching and or listening, and remember, you saw it here